Welcome to An Aries and Pisces Walk Into a Coffee Shop, the podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Bridget, she, her.
And I'm Tiffany, she, her. This is a podcast where two friends let go of perfectionism and talk unedited.
The beauty of this is just like I can just clip out anything.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So,
or not, and just leave it in.
So hello. Happy Wednesday. We're here on this is a Wednesday. Happy hump day.
When you said that for a second, I had like a zzz in my brain, and I'm like, is it really? I think for some reason I thought it was Thursday, but I think that's hopeful thinking because I'm done with the week. Like, I want to be done with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How's this hump day treating you?
I mean, it's sunny, which is nice, but I don't want to be at my desk. And so I have been struggling all week. I'm calling it my eclipse hangover. No one can tell me any different. I just feel like I don't want to be in the mundane day to day. I want to be doing other things, but I have a job that I have to sit at a desk for 8 hours, and I'm struggling with that this week. To be honest, I struggle with it most weeks, but this week particularly, I just keep on looking outside and thinking, I shouldn't be here doing this. I should be doing something else.
Where would you be if you weren't tethered to your desk?
Honestly, I think part of the time I would be outside because it is nice today. The other day that I had that thought it was drizzly, and then I just wanted to be at the library to grab a new book. And the day before that, I had the thought of, this is the thing, I keep on using the word unmotivated in my brain space, but that's not it. I'm just not motivated to do the thing I'm like supposed to be doing. I'm super motivated to like, I just want to read about stuff or like delve into someone else's world, like in a fiction book. Like, I'm very motivated to do anything that isn't my job or keeping my body alive. Because I don't want to do any of that either. Like, every time mealtime comes around, I go, oh, okay, what should I put into this body? And I just don't want to think about it. And it's not that I don't want to eat. I do. I just don't want to have to think about. I just want the food to appear.
Fair enough.
I don't want to think about it, prepare it. I do want to consume it. I do like that part. But like the leading up to that is a struggle this week. How about you?
Yeah.
How's your day? How's your week?
Let's see. Well, just piggybacking off that whole food thing, I feel like that has just been me for the past like 3 years now. So that feels very real. But how is this day? I was trying to remember something that I said to my partner this morning. I said something about hump day. I think hump day is just hilarious. Like I just think it's hilarious. And I can't remember what I said, but I thought that it was funny. Maybe it'll come to me. Who knows? But today I'm working on putting out a new YouTube video, and I got it all like up and scheduled. And so that feels really good.
Yeah, that's very productive.
Exciting.
I was just watching your video about the gratitude journaling the other day. We've talked about it like in real life. And then I think I was struggling. I'm trying to remember how I got there. I guess it doesn't matter. But I was like, wait a minute. Didn't Bridget make a thing? And then I couldn't remember if I made that up, like if it was like, but I like had it I had like a an impression of you doing your like video voice, which is different than our just like talking voice.
My video
Well,
voice.
because you were given, because like I had like the instructional part in my head, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, Bridget wouldn't have been like going through the instructions of the how she does it in Notion. Because like we just talked
Mm.
about it generally speaking. And I think you even shared a screenshot, or maybe it was just your screen with me at one time in a video call. But it wasn't like, and this is how you build it. And I had that like
Yeah.
vague impression in my head of like, this is how you build it. And I was just like, I had to go and look for it. Anyway, that was a really long story just to say I watched your video. But I needed that, and it was really cool to see how you did it. And then I had this like brief moment. I don't well, I a shorthand. I had a babushka moment where I was just like, okay, I'm the granny. Give me my babushka. Like I need to sit down because like there was a moment where you were saying words, and my brain kind of like I noticed my brain kind of like start to like drift, and I was like, oh, you're doing the thing where you're like, I don't understand what's happening, and I like panicked a little bit, and it felt like you
Oh.
weren't saying real words for like a second, and I was like, oh, you do this to yourself. Like I panicked that I wasn't gonna understand it, so I couldn't understand it. And then I like
Oh.
rewound it a little bit, and I was like, oh no, those were all words. Like that was fine. I understood what it meant, but my brain like wouldn't allow me to know that I understood what you said. And I was like,
Ah.
oh, that's interesting to find out. Well, it's not that I was just finding it out. It was another interesting example of a thing I know about myself because I knew I've always been the person where if someone's trying to give me verbal directions, immediate, just sheer panic, cannot compute any human words. Like I just hear like white noise, I see stars, and I'm just sweaty. So like I already knew I had this like tendency to be like if I'm afraid of a thing or like unsure of a thing that like my brain just like goes into panic mode and will not allow me to seep in the information. But it was like a quieter version of something I already knew. And I was like, oh, that's how it shows up. Cool to
Mm.
know.
Beautiful. What a beautiful oh God, what are words? A beautiful moment of
Uh
recognition.
huh. Uh huh.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Sometimes I just get in my own way, you know?
I have so many things to say. Um, we'll we'll see how many of them I can remember. Um, uh, I just still can't. I think it's so funny that you said my voice, my instructional voice, or my video voice, or whatever you said. I think that's extra funny because before I go to record a video, so that I am not to like get rid of feeling nervous because I'm just still gonna feel nervous
Sure.
anyway. But like talking at a little camera is just like it doesn't have eyes or a face. It's not
Hmm.
like I'm like talking to somebody. It's just like weird. So like where do you it just feels weird. Um so what I have been doing is trying to channel like I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to just pretend that I'm telling Tiffany about this." And like Tiffany's over there. And so I'm going to so I'm going to do that. So I just want to let you know that um I hold that in my brain. Of course, once I start recording, then it like everything like takes over and I forget all of that, but then I try to keep like bringing myself
Oh, I love
back and
knowing
like
that.
slowing down.
I'm so pleased to be part of your process.
I also really love your babushka uh moments. Like when you text me and you like tell me all of that. I like am just visualizing you and your little babushka and you're like so old
Yes.
like yeah, and I'm like it is just to me, it's the sweetest picture ever. And I would be like, Tiffany, I will hold your hand in your babushka and I will tell you it
Thank
in whatever way you need
I
so
need that. I'm
that
like
you
the
can
senile
understand
woman
it.
that's like wandering down the street looking for her cat that died 5 years ago, and I just need someone to
Oh,
lead me back to somewhere safe. Just like I got lost again.
and I like, yeah, I'm so glad that you admitted that to me like long ago whenever you admitted it, because I just felt like what a sweet tender moment of like I'm like you don't have to feel like embarrassed or like down about it, like it's okay, like I isn't that
Oh,
wild,
the
like
embarrassment
how
is
we can
very
like
real. Like I'm hot right
yeah.
now.
Oh.
Because I don't want to be like this. I just know that I am. And the babushka shorthand is really helpful because I also have that image of like a sweet Polish grandma, and that makes me feel warm and fuzzy. And it's kind of nice to offer that to me. And just the word
Mhm.
babushka is so fun to say. It feels really
It
good in my
is.
mouth. And it's just a good shorthand because I'm just like, this is what's happening. I'm tying it on. Like, and I'm sitting down and just being like, I am elderly, please help.
And it's just like, and that to me is like, oh, that's not even a thing. I'm like, oh, okay, that's where you're at. Cool. Come on. Like, okay. Like, I'm not putting anything on to it. And I just think that it's really sweet.
It's really helped me be able to tell on myself having people like you to be like,
Mm.
okay.
All right.
Not only, okay, but here, let me take time and energy to tell you the thing that I know. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's another part
Yeah.
of it. I do have a hard time admitting things I don't know because most of my life I've been
Mm.
so well, I think it's twofold. One, I've been anxious my whole life. I like my earliest memories of anxious. Like that's the emotion I remember the most. And so there's that layer, but there's also a layer of like, not only was I anxious, but I was also bullied a lot when I was a kid.
Mm.
And so I learned how to just pretend like I knew what was going on all the time, just to fly under the radar and like not stand out or like not. It's a vulnerability shield, being like,
Mm.
I'm fine, this is fine. No one needs to know that I have no idea what's going on, or I'm having a panic. Like I'll just mask and like shut the doors and just like go through the motions and move through life that way. And it's
Mhm.
been really wild for the past few years. I've been practicing doing that less and telling on myself more and masking less. And really, I've been doing that because I've been embodying more. And I'm finding out if I'm in my body, I can't do those things anymore.
Mhm.
Like,
Okay.
I'm trying to, there's an example that came up the other day. Now I don't remember what it was, but I remember feeling embarrassed about it. It was because I was out in public and
And here it is.
I was just like, oh, of course I forgot because I was embarrassed about it. I was out in public and there was like a festival thing going on like in this town. So there's like a lot of people out and about and walking. And I was having dinner outside on a patio. And I could like feel something rising up in my body, and I like couldn't figure out what it was at first. And then it like all of a sudden dawned on me. I was like, "Oh, you're overstimulated. This is a lot."
Mm.
And I wasn't expecting to be overstimulated because I thought I'm going to be outside and I was excited about this dinner and I thought I was going to be fine. But there was more people than I thought. There was just a lot going on and I could like feel the anxiety start to rise and I was like, I'm fine, this is fine. And I'm like doing the thing where I'm pretending like everything's fine. The waiter came over and said words. I don't know what the words were because I was so focused on pretending I was fine that I didn't have the auditory processing power to be like words. So I like kind of was just like darting my eyes at my partner who was with me and being like, I hope that they heard what was going on and like pick it up because I'm just smiling and nodding, having no idea what's going on. And then I'm not even to the embarrassing part yet. And so this is the lead up. And then I don't exactly remember what caused it. I don't know if it was a kid moving a chair or something, but someone somewhere else, and it was like a big open space, but someone across the way made a noise that just tore its way through my body, up through my scalp. It was so much. I actually went and like covered my ears and had to shake my head for a second. And then I realized I was a
Oh.
grown ass woman in public, outside, around all these people, covering my ears and shaking my head with my eyes closed. And I got so hot and I was just like, oh no.
Oh.
In a
Oh.
past version of me, that sound would have happened and I would have been neutral face, tense as all hell. All my muscles would have been clenched,
Mm.
but I wouldn't have done anything
Mhm.
about it. And I just would have sat there
Mm.
and like let that happen and it would have ping ponged around in my body. And eventually I would have like taken a deep breath and like been a little jittery, but I would have like gotten through without doing anything. But now I'm like so in my body that I felt the thing bounce around like under my skin and I had to do something about it to like dissipate it visibly.
Mhm.
And then I got this like this double-edged sword of like, good job listening to your body and doing what you needed to do in the moment. And then the I wish it didn't have to be visible to other people.
Mm.
And then it's so
Mm.
funny because like no one reacted. Like my partner didn't even react. They're used to it now. But like the idea that someone could have seen that and had a thought about it is mortifying to me
Mm.
because vulnerability.
Yeah. Wow. And I just want to sit here and be like, "Oh my God, good job." Like, that's great. And as you were saying that, I was like, "Oh my God, I just did that somewhere." I don't know if we were like out or something. I cannot remember the situation, but I remember doing it because I remember those thoughts.
Uh-huh.
And I had covered my ears and yeah, because I remembered those thoughts of like, oh my God, I'm like covering my ears like I'm like a little kid or something. And like, why do I need to do this? Like, why do I feel like I need to do this? I don't know if we were like in the car or something. I don't remember, but yeah.
I mean, isn't that so funny? Because you're like, oh, like a little kid, but like little kids know how to instinctively take care of their bodies. And then people came
Mhm.
along to us as little kids. We're like, stop taking care of your body.
Yeah.
And we're just like, oh, okay. I guess.
Yeah. I just finished listening to that We Can Do Hard Things
Oh,
podcast episode. What was that one called?
I think it was just called How to Listen to Your Body because they were talking a lot about that psychologist? Question mark. Is she a psychologist? Am I remembering that
Mhm.
correctly?
I'm trying to remember her name. Hillary?
Yes, her first name is Hillary because they called her Doctor something something, and she was just like,
Yes.
"Could you just call me Hillary, please?"
Yeah.
So yes, a lot of that resonated, and I think it's called How to Listen to Your Body because they were talking a lot about how she didn't just talk about embodiment as a vague theory; it was embodiment and a how-to, which I am very interested
Mm.
in because I've taken a couple of workshops and I've listened to a couple of things talking about how to like tune into your body, and it's so mystifying to me how simple it sounds and how hard it
Mm.
actually is
Mhm.
because of all the
Mhm.
layers of conditioning.
Yes. Yeah, and that's something I'm also actively I was going to say actively participating in. I'm actively practicing
I
and
like
yeah,
participating in
it
it. I really like that phrasing.
But the one thing that like just came up now about this stuff with like the kids is when they talk about how when you like right the like how did we get here and then what do we do from here but the like how did we get here and the whole like shutting things down and dissociating
Mm-hmm.
and not feeling the things, and how when you start to then be more in your body, you might start to have these like reactions that feel really big because you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, I actually have to experience this thing. And then, maybe you do feel like super intense rage. And now you're like, oh, okay, I have to experience this thing
Mm-hmm.
now. And that just made me think of like, oh my God, lately, I know we talked about this before, but the whole screaming
Yes.
thing. And I was like, I have been just, excuse me, feeling like I need to scream so much. And just like hearing them have that conversation about it, I was like, oh my God, it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
I've been practicing more of like being in my body and feeling the
Yep.
things and allowing the feelings to be there instead of doing what they also talked about of like, oh, I'm having this feeling again, just like, okay, it's here, but like I don't want it to be here. So I'm kind of like shutting it down, but I'm thinking that I'm letting myself
Yes.
experience it, but I'm not really. And so I was like, oh, well, feeling like I want to scream makes sense. Or feeling like I want to shut my
Mm-hmm.
ears with my hands, like makes sense. Or if I need to like jump around, shake my hands around, right?
Yes.
Like do all of the things and just like letting myself do that when I feel it. And that, yeah, that just that conversation helped me to be like, oh, okay, yeah, this stuff makes sense. And I'm doing it.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that episode really lit up a bunch of things that you and I have talked about a lot. And even just now, hearing you talk about that idea of coming into your body and actually having to experience things again. I remember when I was journaling a few years back when I like really started working on my dissociation issues and working on embodiment and not masking as much, like all of that kind of like happened as like a domino effect and started like working hand in hand. And I remember journaling about the the ongoing issue that I talked to you about a lot, that if I'm feeling bad, I'm doing bad. And
Mm-hmm.
oh, I was feeling really bad when I first started doing that work because I'd gotten out of such a mental fog that I kept on being like, wow, clarity's sharp. Like I feel all cut
Mm.
up. Like, this is so much. And I was journaling about like how bad everything felt and how unfair it felt, like that I did all of these
Mm.
things to make my life better and I was feeling worse. And then it dawned on me, you're not feeling worse, you're just feeling. And it
Yeah.
took me a long time to be able to look back in the past and see how bad I was doing when I was doing good. And that's in heavy quotes because it was like I appeared to the outside world like I
Yes.
was doing better or fine. But I know on the inside it was rotted and it was just like
Mm.
this very flimsy facade. And while I was looking messier and feeling messier in a different way, I, in fact, was doing a lot better because I was
Mm-hmm.
in my body and I wasn't denying my
Mm-hmm.
feelings and I was lucid. I was more clear. But I still sometimes mourn about the days in which, oh, you know what it is? Um, through that We Can Do Hard Things episode, towards the end, that doctor was giving a a gratitude. She was gushing with gratitude for her dissociation, talking about
Mm-hmm.
like how it served her and how grateful she was that she was able to take care of herself in that way when she needed to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that the mourning sensation, the grief I have, is like when that coping skill worked for me. I miss it
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And not that I don't ever dissociate, I do. But like there is this kind of like woolly comfort of being able to settle into that dissociation that sometimes I do in fact miss because feeling stuff is really hard.
It is. It is.
And I think it's better. I'm glad I'm participating actively in it. However, sometimes I do miss that cozy blurriness of not having to move through the whole thing so loudly. But it's because it's,
Yeah.
again, what that doctor said is that you're not just experiencing the now. All the times you're dissociating and not experiencing that emotion, it's like flooding up through. It's like, oh, the
Mhm.
defense is down. All of those past times you didn't allow that feeling to come through are like, now's our chance. Flush out the system.
Right. Yeah, that makes me think of like EMDR, and
Oof.
where you have maybe
Mhm.
like an underlying negative belief about yourself or a situation or whatever it was, but that is not necessarily just tied to one singular incident. It's the whole spider web of it's all of the connectivity in your brain where you felt that.
Mhm.
And so where also like EMDR is super fucking cool is that because there are all of those connections, all those neural pathways in your brain, um, when you target like one specific thing, it also tends to
Right.
then affect the other ones that it's tied to. And I think that that's super cool.
Yes. I do miss EMDR. I'm curious if you have this experience with present day things where sometimes I find myself, I don't know if worrying is the right word, judging probably is a better word, judging my present reaction to a thing because I have this reflexive, oh, if I didn't have complex PTSD, then this wouldn't be affecting me like this. And I kind of spin around where it's almost like it's a way to tell, it's like a judgment, like, oh, I should be able to handle this better. And if I didn't have complex
Mm.
PTSD, then I could. But it's not true, is what I normally find out. It
Mhm.
takes me a while to get there. But what I normally find out is like, no, my present reaction to this thing that feels bad is in, it's proportional. Like it makes sense. It's rational. And also, I have life experience that matches it, that does make it feel heavier or denser or
Mhm.
maybe louder. But that doesn't mean that my reaction to the thing that presently does not feel good to me is incorrect.
Mhm. Oh my God, I feel like this just like everything that you are saying today, I'm like, I have so many things that are like, I am right here with you on all of these things in so many different ways. But like, which about it do I want to jump into? Okay. So on Sunday, I was having a particularly depressive
Yeah.
day, and it was really hard. And the like what has been happening for me lately is the depressive, like hopeless feelings. It feels like they come out of nowhere, like it feels like a light switch.
Mhm.
And I have done all of this like the one technique, behavior chain analysis,
Yes.
where you like go back in time and you like see all of the different contributing things that end up, to where I'm like, oh, I feel hopeless right now. It's not actually a light switch. There are all of these things that led up
Right.
to it. So, but it feels like a light switch in the moment. And I just keep like oscillating in my days between like just the heaviest like depression, and then I'm like, and then I feel fine, and then I love my life, and then things are okay, and then I am like, I don't want to live like this
Mhm.
anymore, like, and I'm like, I'm completely miserable, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
And that is what was happening on Sunday. And then so we go throughout our day, lots of different conversations and things in the healing sphere between my partner and I. But at the end of the day, we did a yoga video together. We've been doing yoga together
Mm,
on Sundays, and we have been doing recently, we've been doing yoga with Adrian,
my favorite.
and I have been having extra body pain.
Yeah.
And right now it's been a lot of like in my legs and my hips in particular. So I was like, okay, let's do a hip video. And I picked one that was like hips and shoulders because I'm also like, this is where I carry
They're
all of my
connected.
tension.
I'm
Yeah. And
also in
so,
that camp.
so like we did this video and the whole time I was struggling
Mm,
so hard. I was like, these are not the poses that I need right now. They're not like, it just, I was having such a hard time. And then I noticed like the voices come in
yeah.
of you know, like, why is this so hard for me? Or like almost the like, why is this video catering to like hips and shoulders when it's just like making my shoulders more
Mm,
tense, or like it's not helping my hips? It was very like, I was having a very hard time with my own like experience.
hmm.
And so afterwards, I slipped right back into that like depressive, like hopeless, and also a bunch of like anger of like, I was so excited to do this yoga video to
Yeah.
help my body. And I felt like it just made things worse. It wasn't what I needed.
It didn't do the fix.
And yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't do the fix.
Hmm.
And then my partners offered something to me just like out of love, and I snapped, and I was like, oh, okay, this is where like I'm like, I don't approve of me talking in this way. So like, I that's when I know that like I need my time out and I need to like go regulate.
Yeah.
And so I came upstairs and I was like thinking about it, and I think the whole like behavior chain thing like popped into my head. And I'm like, okay, this wasn't just like a light switch. It didn't just like I'm like, what's actually going on, Bridget? And I was thinking about like something popped into my head that I don't know if it is from maybe somewhere in astrology
Hmm.
or like human design. I want to say it's somewhere in astrology in my chart or something like that, of where like I am just designed to experience like super intense
Hmm.
emotions. And I was also relating my experience to like my partner's
Oh,
experience. And I'm like, he doesn't experience these big emotions like this. And, that's like, I'm like, that's unfair. Why do I have to
mm,
experience this depression? I'm like, he doesn't get that. And I was like, okay, well, something was just like, Bridget, you just experience emotions gigantically intensely. And I was like, think about when you are like really excited about something,
right,
or like super, I'm like, I get super jazzed. I like freak out excited,
right.
like big. And that's also a thing where I would come to him and be like, what are you excited about? Like, why aren't you super jazzed about this thing? He's like, do I ever like freak out about those things? I was like, no, you don't. So then I was just thinking of like, that kind of helped me to look at it as like, okay, I just experience these things big and
Yeah.
he doesn't. And that's like, I also kind of got the thought of like, oh, that sucks for him. Cause when I am jazzed, I am like so jazzed.
Uh-huh.
And I've even had like shadowy stuff around that about like my excitement levels and like showing my excitement about
Hmm.
things that I think are like trivial or tiny, or like I shouldn't be so excited or like so animated about things. So I've like had to work around like that level of
Right.
it. So then I brought it back down to like, well, okay, if I can experience that like joy and excitement super big, I guess it makes sense that I experience this like depression
Mm.
feeling so big.
You don't get to pick and choose
And
the ups and downs.
right.
You have
Yeah.
both.
Yeah. I was like,
Right.
this is just the human experience. And also remembering like lots of conversations from therapy with like my therapist telling me that I'm like the most emotionally, like mentally healthy person that she knows. And I'm like mind blown, like, pardon me, what?
Yep.
And she's like, yeah, you're just experiencing normal human emotions. And I was like, okay, well, that's what's happening to me right now. And I'm just feeling it and I'm feeling it really big. And then all of it was like I unlocked something.
Mm,
And I was like, I felt fine after that. I was just like, oh, it's just I'm just in like a depressive mood. It's telling me something about the situation that I was in and the whole rest of my day and everything leading up to it. It's just like information and I can move forward with that. And but then I didn't feel like I wasn't attaching all of those stories on from
right.
all of the other lines in my life and my brain. I was just like, oh, I just needed to like feel this and like assess it, check it out. And like, and then I like went downstairs and I was like coming down like off of it.
Hmm.
But then I was able to be like, hey, this is what happened. Sorry I said that in that way. Like, and then we could talk about different, we talked about different, like things that he can do for me with me in the moment to like help me get through uh, those
Right.
moments. And I was just like, I felt blown away that I was like, did I unlock some new level of like eh, feeling like I can handle my emotions? Like that was just like it felt nuts.
Yeah, I think that this is something that we've talked about before, where in the past you've described being able to do something in the moment and being like, I don't know how it did that. It came out of nowhere. And I'm like, did it? Because everything that you talk about, like these are things that you are actively participating and practicing all the time. It just,
Yeah.
the payoff happened in the moment where that
Hmm.
turnaround time is a lot less,
Hmm.
which is really hopeful and inspiring to hear, because I've had that thought where, well, I've had a couple of thoughts that align with that. The idea that I remember when I realized how I was dampening my joy and my excitement because I was so practiced at dampening down my lows that I couldn't access the highs and was actively sabotaging them because feeling felt too
Mm.
dangerous one way or the other. And also the idea that it's not always going to feel the same every time. I get stuck in this, oh no, it's always going to feel this intense and this bad every time. And to your point, I can't live like this. It's
Yeah.
like, well, newsflash, you don't have to because everything's changing all the time.
News flash. No feeling is final. It's
Yes.
not gonna be forever. Yeah, that gets in there like real big.
Hmm. I'm very proud of you.
Oh my God, thank you. I yeah, the other thing that came up was that like in that moment then I was like, "Oh, I felt more capable
Yes.
to handle it." Like, "Oh, I can handle this."
Hmm.
Instead of like, "Oh, I can't live like this anymore. I'm miserable. I'm never going to be satisfied. I'm never like um I'm not at a point where like I want to die, but I'm also like I don't want to live,
Yeah.
but like I do want to live. Like I'm not it's just like it's that thing of like I feel like I can't live like this. I
Right.
can't handle it. I don't want to. It's not fair. Right?
Oh,
Like
I know
why do
all
I
of
have to
those
feel
phrases.
like
Yes.
this? Like yeah. But like in reality, like I do want to live and I want to live a life that I am enjoying and that means a lot to me and those moments just feel so like big and like they're gonna take ever over and they're gonna be there forever
Yep. The forever thing is really
and
interesting because I never
yeah,
have that feeling about a positive emotion. Isn't that
right.
interesting?
Right,
I know some
right.
people do. That's a different, probably a different mental problem. But like, I've like had that thought where I'm like, oh, I have never, not once in my life, had like a good day, a joyful moment, and like, oh, this is gonna be forever. But when a bad one
Yeah.
comes along, I'm like, well, here we are. This is gonna be it. Just this
Hmm.
dark valley forever and ever and always. And one of the things, whenever I have this is something I'm practicing lately. Whenever I have my version of I can't live like this, um, I have been trying in the moment to redirect that thought into I just need a rest. Because what I'm
Mhm.
finding out is whenever I have that I can't do this, I don't want to, and like the I can't live like this, I'm like, oh, like I've reached a threshold where I what I'm actually feeling is I just need a break and I need a rest. And I often forget to give myself that because most of my life I've been conditioned not to. And while I'm practicing rest a lot more, and logically I know it's correct, I find in practice I'm still on automated doing the thing, pushing, grinding, striving,
Mhm.
and taking on too much, overextending. And I'm still trying to figure out how to, I mean, it's like that, the chain of analysis thing too. I'm trying to learn how to, I'll use a number scale. So if we're like at a 1 to 10, I want to figure out like when I start creeping up to like a 3, a 4, I want to be able to be like, "Oh, okay, here it is. We need to slow down and do the things." I don't do that. I wait until I'm at a
Mhm.
7 before I realize what's happening. And then sometimes I wait
Mhm.
until I'm at an 8 or more to be like, "Oh, now I get to take care of myself." But at that point,
Mhm.
it's not I'm not really it's aftercare at that point. Like I've already surpassed a limit that now I'm like in a deficit and having to do extra to get myself back to a
Mhm.
baseline. And I've been having a hard time catching all the subtle cues. It's like I don't hear anything until it's at 8 level instead of
Mhm.
that 3 level.
But also, look at you recognizing that level 8.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I stay there too long is what I found out.
Mm. Mm.
But you know
I
what?
think
I think also my scale's broken because I'm saying that now. And I think realistically these days, it's probably more like a 6 or 7, but it just feels intolerable. But I think in the past, my
mm,
tolerance was too high for that. So I would wait until I was really like at wit's end. And like, well, I know that for a fact because like even like my senior year of high school, I was chronically sick, like one thing after another, because like I was ignoring all of the symptoms and didn't have the tools to take care of myself then. And there was like a year, like Bridget, people called me bubble girl. It was so bad.
oh.
I was just sick all the time, nonstop. I would get over one thing and have another thing. And it was just like, well, yeah, you weren't taking care of yourself. And like, and
Mm.
even then, like I was sick all the time. Guess who's still going to school and doing all the things and pretending she didn't have like bronchitis for like 3 months.
Mm.
Like, that's so wild to think about. So I do think I've made progress because I don't burn myself out to that degree anymore. But I'm also dissociating less, so I think it feels worse sometimes.
Mhm. Can I also offer
Of
something
course.
that I would say that maybe your scale is not broken, it's just shifted. Like that made me think very much of like a window of tolerance thing
Yeah.
of, of course, as you now have been doing all of these practices and boundaries that yeah, of course your scale is shifted because you're not putting up with or like doing the same things as as before.
That's true.
I also did want to offer that like I feel like sometimes I I mean it's really hard to notice the like levels like 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Like it's hard until you get to like a 7 and then you're like looking back
Right.
like oh shit, those were the things. that's hard for me, especially with my like physical body.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know that I've done too much until I've done it,
Yeah, I
and
do that too.
then I'm like put out for the next 3 days, and everything is like
Mhm.
too hard, and I'm like, oh fuck, like I went too hard, but in the moment I thought I was doing fine.
Yep, been there, done that.
I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe some of it too is the like grace and compassion piece of the like maybe I'll never catch myself at a 2 or a 3,
Oh,
and like maybe I won't, and like that's okay. Maybe this is like that's living, right? And then as you keep going and you keep learning, then your window, your scale just shifts a little bit.
oh, you're saying everything just takes time? Oh.
Time and experience and
Oh, so instant gratification isn't gonna happen here? Okay. Well, that's fair.
shit. I think we're doing a good job.
Yeah, we are doing a good job. Just sometimes it doesn't always immediately become apparent. But I get there in the end. It's easier when I'm looking at
Yeah.
you.
Aw. It is easier to be able to like reflect these things back off of each other.
Hmm. I'm glad we're doing that. I need
Me too. Me too.